Did you know that 420,000 under 5 Nigerian children die every year? And that's according to a regional body known as Africa Middle East Progressive Initiative, AFMEPI, a non-governmental organization that is into health advocacy. But the saddest part of this is that the deaths are not caused by major or very complex, unpreventable health conditions. The culprit is said to be simple malnutrition, but not so simple. Malnutrition is just not having enough food to eat, or not eating the right or proper things. For instance, a year-old baby is fed with maize, sorghum, or millet pudding, that we know as pap or ugi, all through the day, or even a daily meal, stacked meal, if you know what I'm talking about. Malnutrition induces diarrhea, pneumonia, and even malaria. And we hear that 2 million under 5 Nigerian children suffer from severe acute malnutrition. There are other complications that come with it, including stunted growth, which leaves its patient physically or mentally retarded. And according to UNICEF, Nigeria has the highest second burden of stunted children in the world, with a prevalence rate of 32% of under 5 Nigerian children. Very sad. But it is not just the burden of under 5 children. Women of childbearing age are also vulnerable. How, you may ask? We'll get to find out soon on today's program. But suffice it to say that only few Nigerian children are being reached with treatment. Isn't it ironical that in the land of plenty resources, Nigeria is bearing the highest second burden of stunted children in the world? What is inducing increase in this number of malnourished cases, and why are the children not reached with treatment? These are some of the questions that stare us in the face on today's edition of the program. Welcome to Nigeria Today on NT News 24. I am Claire Adilabu Abdulrazak. Once again, just to remind you, if you've just joined us, our topic is malnutrition in children. And let me quickly introduce my two personalities here with me in the studio. Engineer Abdus Sabu Ulide is the Vice President of African Middle East Progressive Initiative. As I said earlier on, they're into health advocacy. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you very much.
And I also have with me my namesake, Claire Chinyere Ekweme. She's the Assistant State Nutrition Officer, Nutrition Coordinating Officer, FCT, Primary Healthcare Board. Namesake, thank you very much for joining me.
It's my pleasure being here.
All right, let's get started. When we talk about malnutrition, sounds simple on the surface, but it's causing us great health, havoc. So, how can we quickly identify a malnourished child in terms of definition?
Okay.
Let me start with Chinyere.
Yeah. When you say a child is malnourished, the child is not getting adequate nutrition, adequate nutrients. It means that there's nutrient insufficiency.
Nutrients?
Yes.
What nutrients?
The nutrients, we're talking about the macronutrients, the big ones, like the carbohydrate, energy-giving food, the protein, and the hidden one, that is the micro, the ones that the body requires a little quantity, but is very critical for growth and development. So as soon as this child begins to lose those things or don't get enough, the child will be malnourished. And the consequences is enormous. Because, one, the child will never reach his full potentials. And incidentally, it starts when the woman is pregnant, if care is not taken.
Okay, I will pause you. You've raised two issues.
Yes.
When it starts, that's the onset,
yeah.
And what malnourished lacks. Yes, but I also want us to look at when we talk about nutrients.
Yes.
Probably those that we're even talking about don't even know what nutrients are. Yes, yeah. Please, Engineer Abdus, can you break it down for us?
Thank you very much. Like she said, when we say micronutrients, we're talking about vitamins. Vitamin A, for example. It's unfortunate that these are things that are common around us that we don't even value. For example, we have carrots in surplus around now in this environment, and it's rich in vitamin A. but many don't see it as a necessity to add into their food menu, vegetables and all that. So those nutrients that we're talking about should not be seen from the angle of something mystery. Rather, we should not just be interested in eating rice in the morning and then there's no meat, there's nothing, it's just rice. And then in the afternoon we take a swallow, and then in the night
Eba,
and then we take yam in the night. Rather, we should look at a simple meal that has all the necessary ingredients. When we eat rice, even when we eat rice, it goes well if we take vegetables, if we take some of those things along.
Yeah, so what we mean by, malnutrition now will be a meal, for instance, that has just one,
Okay, let me put it forward this way. Malnutrition could be undernourished, under nutrients, or under nutrition, or even over. When you have, like she said, those nutrients, when they are deficient, the components that are supposed to be, and then you have continuous line style of nutrients, carbohydrate, all through, and it's not balanced with all other body needed nutrients. It then becomes undernourished. Though you are eating, but you are not eating right. You understand? And then it could be that some are more prevalent at the expense of the other.
So is it symptomatic? Can we say a malnourished child? Are there symptoms when I look at
very obvious,
apart from the protruding tummy? Are there,
very clear symptoms.
Yeah.
One is that a child who is malnourished, if the child is wasted, you can count the rib cage, the ribs.
Wasted?
Yes, wasted as in there's no flesh.
Okay.
There's no flesh because the child is not eating good food and enough food. So the child will be very, as if his child is dry. No flesh. You can even see the buttocks. The buttocks, there won't be any flesh. You have something like baggy pants.
There are children in some schools, boarding schools.
Yes.
When they come back from boarding schools, they fit into this your description.
Exactly, because they are not getting enough. And there's no other way outside getting enough. The only way out is for the child to feed well. If I boil white rice, it's pure white, isn't it? By the time I add tomatoes, alejo, the simple spinach, green, we call it. The color is changing. So if we encourage them to eat colored food, that would be better.
So I just gave an example of students in boarding schools, and for you to be able to put your child or your ward in a boarding school, it means you can afford. You understand? So is it that malnutrition, it's not a problem, a health condition associated with poverty?
No.
It's not necessarily with poverty, because you might even have the money and you don't eat right. If I like bread and I like sandwich, and I eat sandwich from morning till night and take soda. I take Coca-Cola or diet soda, whatever I call it. At the end of the day, I'm not eating right. So it's not a question of whether I have the money. But for the children, the vulnerable, most times it's linked with poverty.
So we're looking
crisis.
So we're looking basically at under 5,
where
under we have the high mortality.
Very, very high mortality. So when you talk about under 5s having high mortality, because most times the mothers don't even have enough, and when they do have, most of them are subsistence farmers. They're in the communities, so they sell all they have and eat less. They want to keep the money.
I don't know why I want to put this question to Engineer Abtos.
Yeah.
If indeed the under 5 are most vulnerable to malnutrition or being malnourished, and you say it starts from the when the woman is pregnant.
Yes, from conception.
And we know that breastfeeding is the first food that the baby. So what happens, because a mother lactates? How is it that
it's amazing? I give a very typical example. We just came back from Benue State, and we had an engagement at Gomo, one of the local government. I asked this similar question in our evaluation. These people are close to the farm, and so they have access to all the food. So why dance to? And incidentally, I had a case of a small baby favor presented to me, malnourished, swollen stomach, swollen legs, and all that. So it's not just about that's Benue here, not Central. No,
food basket.
I mean,
Yes,
that's a food basket. So when we talk about poverty on one hand, in terms of ability to buy, and then the same person who is poor goes to the farm, have all the good farm produce sold, and make money, and deny himself or herself the opportunity of the first access to those food, as a result of an attempt to want to make ends meet.
So there's the issue of awareness.
Yeah.
We will get to that, but let's look at the spread. Let's look at the spread. I mean, ordinarily one would think that, you know, because of insurgency in the northern part of the country, and of course the devastation, you know, and the cost of everything on the parents, on the family, that you will have more cases there. But before our conversation, before we came on live, you said that's not the case. The malnutrition is widespread.
Yeah,
it's spreading.
it is.
In spite of the fact that the Northeast and the Northwest are high burden states.
Okay.
It's spreading, even in the FCT.
Well, how do you mean high burden states?
High burden states where you have large number of children who are under 6 to 59 months who are malnourished. You get them more in the Northeast and in the Northwest. What has escalated the one for the Northeast is because of the crisis we have at hand. So most partners give support there because you have more children who need this help. They've been displaced from their natural environment. Some of them stay in the IDP camps. Some of them are on transit. So the only way for them to survive is getting help and support.
So we understand the case of the northern part. What is inducing that in the southern part, southwest and southeast, for instance, and even south?
Incidentally, we at some point tend to want to live a life that is not natural terrain. Like she said, and then which also we observed, today we have mobile food, eat on the go. And a point where it's no longer poverty or crisis, but it's a lifestyle that is adopted and is not real. We've had the interaction in Oyo State, and Oyo State is also a typical transit where you have food that are cheap.
Let me pause you. It's time to hear from Nigerians, you know, out there in the streets, what they think about malnutrition. This is Nigeria Today. We'll take a short break now. Of course, when we come back, we'll feel what Nigerians know about malnutrition and, of course, get the response from our guest. Don't go away.
Malnutrition simply means improper feeding to the children. When children are not given enough feeding for the development of the body, growth of the body.
Children, Gary 3 times a day, it cannot work, it can cause it. But if you want to give your child balanced food, you give her tea in the morning, in the afternoon she can eat moi, then in the evening time she can even eat just light food.
Yeah, it's by following the dietitians, their instructions. Mainly those people who used to go to hospitals to take care of their babies, you know, newborn babies. So all those people there can tell them what they will take to feed their children with. You understand? If we follow the doctor's instruction or the nurse's instructions in the hospital, I mean, when you come back home, you'll be able to feed your children with all those things that is required of their body, what their body needs, the nutrients that the body requires to grow. Because it is from the infancy that you can get a child to grow.
All right, welcome back. You've listened to the views of Nigerians and what they know about malnutrition in our children. And of course, we have our guests here in the studio, Chinyere Claire Ekweme, Assistant FCT Nutrition Coordinator, and Engineer Abdul Sabu Uli, the Vice President, African Middle East Progressive Initiative. Both of you, thank you once again. Let's quickly look at intervention. You've listened to what the respondents had to say. First, the gentleman talked about integrating interventions into our primary health care, which I thought was quite ingenious of him. You work with the primary health care. What do you think, and what is the practice now?
The practice, in fact, the FCT is doing so much in terms of this. Like I earlier on said, the malnutrition starts from conception. So you begin to talk to mothers to get adequate nutrition, to eat food, good food. When we talk about good food, we talk about the legumes, the beans, the granules. We talk about the staples, the roots, the yam, cassava, gari, rice, corn. You also talk about the colored vegetables, the vitamin A rich fruits and vegetables. You talk about the animal source food, eggs, milk. They don't need to go for the real chickens in the communities. So you talk to mothers who are pregnant, expectant mothers, what to eat, and that's what we do in the FCT health facilities. You also talk to them when the baby arrives. WHO says, put the baby to breast within 1 hour of birth. We have done extensive work in terms of that. Early this year, we went around the hospital, the communities, to also remind the health workers that as soon as a mother delivers, you put the baby to the breast so that the baby gets the complete benefit of breastfeeding.
We understand that breastfeeding intervention has not been quite encouraging in terms of helping to check malnutrition. What are your findings in terms of interventions?
Yeah, well, so far our findings has been so amazing that one, the need for increased awareness. There's a lot of assumptions
about breastfeeding or what to eat,
about our complete lifestyle. What to eat is just one of it. Breastfeeding, it's also another. Most of the time, we tend along the line of traditional foods that we are used to, and when the enlightenment comes, the change process is a factor. People, for example, don't get to like this. When we talk about combining maybe grounded granite in the pap, rather than just the pap that we're used to. And then there's a feeling of I don't like it and all that. So there has to be some level of conviction. Secondly is that Africa Middle East Progressive Initiative, we also come from the angle of administering life-saving dosages, which on one hand will enhance the already existing food practice. I mean, the vegetable, the sorghum and all that, which we are used to. Take, for example, the 1,000 days, critical days of a child, which to us is now the new next level campaign, is that we introduce multivitamins for the pregnant woman from the point of conception. Because when we keep talking, it's believed that they are supposed to take it for their own sake. However, on the other hand, studies have shown that not all of them do.
How are you working with the primary health care?
Already our relationship here in FCT, and for example, we donated over 50,000 dosages to AMAC last year, and we were with them along the period of the maternity week. Then we also had interaction. We've had interactions with the primary health care here in FCT.
Yeah,
and also, like I said, we have interaction with Benue State, Oyo State, Cross River States, and even in Taraba. We really want to work along, for example, with the federal government, particularly this child school feeding. Because the issue goes far across that period. When there's a deficiency,
it doesn't stop at under 5.
It doesn't.
It goes beyond.
In fact, the findings we have is that the deficiency of vitamin A and some other microvitamins are also a factor to our academic excellence. For example, if you have adequate vitamin A is really assists
Okay.
in the IQ.
Let me just fast forward. I'm going to combine 3 questions into one. Both of you would answer. We've had cases where people, complain about the quality of even the, the products, the food that we harvest or that we plant and harvest. What do we do, to that in terms of intervention? And of course, you talk about the purchasing power of mothers.
Yeah.
So, some mothers will tell you, even carrots these days, to buy carrots, it's not easy to come by, and all that. You've talked about the feeding behavior of some Nigerians. So how do we reconcile all this within our intervention plan?
Okay, we like nutrition is a multi-sectoral thing, and for you to get it right, you have to approach it multi-sectorally. The food security has to come in, because even when you treat a child who is malnourished, there should be a continuum. Where do we get that continuum from? Food security, agri comes in. So we encourage mothers to have food gardens. They are taught how to process some of these products. So by so doing, we empower them. Then when it comes to preventive, when the problem is already there, when treatment is very, very costly, because you have to import the RUTF, the ready-to-use therapeutic food.
Yes.
In the FCT, we are doing a lot of things, starting from the breastfeeding campaign.
How well are we doing in terms of management of those who are already malnourished?
Yeah, we have centers. We have a model center in Kwali, basic healthcare, primary healthcare center. We have a standard outpatient therapeutic center there. We have one in Old Kutumku in Gwagwalada. So
what kind of services do they render?
They treat them if they are malnourished without complications. When we talk about malnourished without complications, it means that they don't have edema, they are not swollen all over their body. It's just their feet. Bilateral edema on their feet and on their hands. And there are no medical complications. We send them to the OTP, the outpatient therapeutic care center, which is, and we have designated secondary healthcare facilities like the Kwali General Hospital, the University of Abuja Teaching Hospital, where we have children who are malnourished with complications treated. The
food homegrown feeding program, it's an intervention to also prevent malnourished children. How well do you think government is doing in terms of also helping to solve
in those days, when we say multi-sectoral, it is indeed the way out, because it's not enough to just have the food. It's supposed to be a behavioral change, a stage whereby from the agricultural sector move to the education sector. There has to be a continuous awareness, and then you have to consider also the issue of the water, sanitation and hygiene. Everybody is supposed to work together. Now, the homegrown food that is going on presently, yes, so far a lot is being done, but it's only happening in the school. Those days, children are taught classes of food, and so they take it home and then make it part of their life. I know sometimes ago one of the kids told the father that they are the one that needs it more, and the father said, what? He said, the meat.
What's the step now? What step should we take now? That's the final question.
What we really want from the government and of course all stakeholders is to have a coordinated effort. The NGOs, the government having an alliance. If, for example, for our donor, we have vitamin A supplements that we can use to complement what's obtainable in the government sector.
Sure.
Yeah. For us in the FCT, we have already started launching the Zero Water campaign. When the baby is born, we ensure that the baby gets only breast milk at birth. It's preventive.
That's another topic.
No, but it's part of the plans we have in the FCT. Yes, it's a multi-sectoral approach. Then we have the Committee on Food and Nutrition, the FCT Committee on Food and Nutrition, where everybody comes on, but all the stakeholders come together, partners, agric, education, talk about the way forward. What can we do? So everybody brings something on the table. And at the end of the day, we get a well-nourished child. It's not a one-man show. Everybody, all hands on deck. And the FCT government is trying, because a lot of activities are ongoing.
Less than 30 seconds.
Let me just put on record that this has been tested in one of the local government in Benue State, that no case was recorded for at least a period of 1 year.
All right.
And that's caused a lot of awareness.
All right, Engineer Abdul Sabur Lide, Vice President, African Middle East Progressive Initiative, thank you. And Claire Chinere Ekwema, Assistant FCT Nutrition Coordinator, FCT Primary Health Board. Thank you, both of you, for coming to share your perspectives on this issue.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
All right, we ask you to join us again tomorrow, but do remember you can watch these and other episodes of this program on our YouTube address, www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. From me and the rest of the production crew, I am Claire Delabo Abdurrasaq. Bye-bye.